These are the lecture notes for Chapter 1, Part A. Chapter 1 is on the human body and orientation. And we're going to skip, whenever I skip through the slides, it's just because of time, but you can go back and access all of the slides in our Week 1 page on Moodle. So you are beginning the study of anatomy and physiology. The definition of anatomy is the study of the structure of body parts and their relationship to one another. So just think of anatomy as structure. When we study anatomy in this course, we're going to be labeling bones and muscles and learning the names of various bones and muscles and other body parts. The physiology is how everything functions, how everything works together. So there is a relationship between the two, anatomy and physiology, and it's called the principle of complementarity of structure and function. And what that relationship says is that function always reflects structure, and what a structure can do depends on its specific form. So function depends on structure, basically. Function depends on structure, okay? Now, if you go back through the slides that I just skipped, you can see various subdivisions of anatomy and physiology. When we use the term gross anatomy, we don't mean that it's disgusting. We mean that it is large. It's large enough to be seen with the naked eye without a microscope. And when we use the term microscopic anatomy, it means we're either looking at cells or tissues. And the subdivision of biology where we just study cells is called cytology, the study of cells. And then histology is the study of tissues, which we would also use a microscope to study tissues because the tissue level is simply combinations of similar cells. So then we have developmental anatomy, and that is, for one example of developmental anatomy is embryology, where we're studying developments before birth. And then we have physiology. For example, they give you two examples of physiology that focus on organ systems. When we use the term renal physiology, we're referring to the urinary system, the kidneys, the ureters, the bladder, and the urethra. Cardiovascular physiology, of course, refers to the function of the heart and the blood vessels. And again, anatomy and physiology are inseparable. That is the principle of complementarity of structure and function. This is an example from the human teeth. And what you see here are, on the picture on the left, you see a focus on the incisors, which are used for clipping and cutting because of their shape. They have sharp edges, which allows you to cut into and bite off a piece of your carrot that you're eating. So they function a little bit like scissors. But then you also you don't want to swallow that piece whole. So there are other teeth in the back called molars, and those have flat surfaces for crushing. And those help you to crush your food up into smaller pieces so you can digest your food better. So the molars are shaped and they're more ideal for grinding. So again, the structure determines the function. And we have many examples of that in anatomy and physiology, many, many examples. Now, in section 1.2, we are going to talk about how the human body is very organized, and actually all living things are very organized. We start with the chemical level. At the very smallest chemical level, we have atoms, different atoms that are grouped together into molecules. Molecules are grouped together into larger molecules that form the organelles or the parts of the cell. And then at the cellular level, we have all of the cell parts, all the organelles plus the cell membrane or plasma membrane are grouped together to form a single cell. And then the tissue level is groups of similar cells. In humans, we have 4 different tissue types. Those different tissues group together to make up our organs. And our organs always contain at least 2 tissue types, but many times an organ will have all 4 of the tissue types. And then groups of organs will form an organ system, and these are organs that work closely together. Humans have 11 organ systems. We have the nervous system, the endocrine system, the integumentary system, which is the skin, and all of our 11 organ systems work together to make up a whole human or a whole organism. Here you see an illustration of the different levels of organization, and you will need, for your first exam, you will need to know the levels of organization in order, starting with the simplest, which is an atom, and moving all the way to the entire organism. So again, that list is going to be atoms combined to make molecules. What you're seeing here is the black atom is carbon. The red atom is hydrogen. No, it is oxygen. And the blue atom is, the blue atoms are hydrogen. So if you look at the molecules that are formed, the molecule here on top that has the carbon in the middle and then the oxygens on each end, that's carbon dioxide, CO2. The molecule on the bottom is water, 2 hydrogens and 1 oxygen, H2O. So you have atoms, molecules, and then organelles. The organelle you're looking at here is a mitochondria, which is the powerhouse of the cell. If you've learned any biology in your life, maybe in high school, the organelles combine and in combination with the plasma membrane or the cell membrane, they combine to make a cell. And what you're looking at here is a smooth muscle cell. Then we have smooth muscle tissue, and we find smooth muscle tissue lining our blood vessels, lining our digestive tract. And here you have a blood vessel, which is composed of smooth muscle tissue on the outside and inside lining, connective tissue, and even epithelial tissue. I'm sorry, I just made a mistake and I don't want to re-record. Let me say that over again. We have muscle tissue, smooth muscle tissue in the blood vessel in the middle. That is in the middle of the blood vessel. That's the inner layer of tissue. It is surrounded by epithelial tissue lining. The outside of the blood vessel is lined with epithelial tissue, and also the inside of the blood vessel is lined with epithelial tissue. And there's also connective tissue associated with a blood vessel. Then you have, so that would be the organ level. The blood vessel is the organ. The organ system, the organ system is all the blood vessels and the heart, and that's called the cardiovascular system. And then all 11 body systems, including the cardiovascular system, make up this young man who's playing soccer, and he would be the organism. In section 1.3, we're going to talk about the requirements for life. In biology, we focus on the requirements for all living things. We call these the characteristics of living things. But here we're going to focus, of course, on the humans. So what do we need to maintain life? We need a way to maintain boundaries. So we just looked at linings. There's a lining on the inside of your blood vessels, and that separates the rest of your body, tissue fluids and body structures from your blood, because your blood is inside here. So that's just one example of a boundary. Your skin is a boundary. Movement, and movement isn't just walking. It isn't just moving your hands, moving your limbs, moving your hands and feet, moving your head, talking, moving your lips and tongue. It is also movement of materials throughout your body. So, for example, we were talking about blood vessels, so the movement of blood through our blood vessels. So it's movement inside of our body as well, not just movement of our entire body. Responsiveness has a lot of examples, but we're able to respond. For example, if we're doing cardiovascular system. So how does our cardiovascular system respond when we're scared? Well, our blood pressure, our heart rate increases. So that's going to increase our blood pressure too. Digestion, we have to be able to break down the food we eat, not just mechanically with our teeth, but also chemically. The large chemicals have to be broken down into their smaller parts. For example, proteins have to be broken down into amino acids. Carbohydrates have to be broken down into simple sugars for us to be able to digest them and extract energy from them. Our metabolism is the combination of all the chemical reactions in our body. That would be the reactions that build new molecules and the reactions that break down molecules. Excretion refers to getting rid of waste, including urine, sweat, and feces. And reproduction, of course, we have the male and the female reproductive system, and it involves the uniting of a sperm with the egg to create a zygote, which is the first cell that's going to form into the baby. And growth is going to be by increasing the number of cells and the size of our cells. So just real quick, going back over those necessary life functions, we have maintaining boundaries, and examples would be plasma membranes, separate the internal part of the cell from the outside, and the skin separates the organism from its environment. Movement, again, that can be movement of body parts through our skeletal muscles, movement of blood, and movement of our the contents of our digestive tract, which is the food we eat, and then the stomach contents once it begins to break down in our stomach with our gastric juices, our gastric substances that combine with the food. So the movement of those components through the digestive tract, and urination is the movement of urine through the urinary system. At the cellular level, movement is called contractility, when our muscle cells contract. We also have responsiveness, the withdrawal that's hard to say. Withdrawal reflex prevents injury because, for example, when you touch a hot stove, you pull your hand away quickly. When you step on something sharp, I walked in my bedroom the other day and my cat had left something, a rock or something in the floor, and I stepped on it and it hurt so bad, but I pulled my foot away. That's what we do to prevent injury. Other examples of responsiveness are our breathing rate, which will increase when we are scared or in the fight or flight mode, and it will decrease when we are sleeping and resting. And digestion is breaking down our food mechanically and chemically, and digestion is also followed by absorption of those smaller molecules into our bloodstream. Metabolism is all of the reactions, all the chemical reactions. It's going to include all the catabolism reactions, which are the breakdown reactions, and all of the anabolism reactions, or synthesis or building reactions that build larger molecules. Excretion is the removal of waste. Examples of waste are going to be urea, which is formed from the breakdown of proteins, and it's a component of our urine. Carbon dioxide is a waste that we breathe out, and it's produced when we break down, when we carry out cellular respiration. And then feces, of course, is the waste that's produced from unabsorbed food. Reproduction at the cellular level just means cell division, and that occurs for growth, and it also occurs for repair. And then reproduction is the production of offspring by the fusing of a sperm with an egg, and growth is increase in the size of the body part of an organism or the entire organism together. We're going to stop here and we'll start back the next recording with necessary life functions, I guess slide 5 of 5.